Hi there. My name is Carol, and you are listening to the Light FM Girl Talk podcast. I'd like to introduce you to my friend,
Alicia.
And Tricia.
And today we are covering a topic that may make you want to stop this podcast right now. But wait.
Stay with us.
Stay with us. We promise. We're going to be talking about envy. That's not a word you hear a lot.
Sounds like a bad word.
Yeah, it does sound like a bad word. It's a 4-letter word, too. So we've just destroyed the word envy. But I read this quote, and I was like, man, this is so good. And I posted it on Facebook, and a couple of people had made comments about it, so I wanted to share it with you. And it's talking about envy. Envy tends to judge the goodness of God by whether he has delivered what you feel entitled to. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's enough right there, but it goes on. Yeah. So envy makes us doubt the goodness of God. It goes on to say, and because it judges God on that basis, it leads you to question his goodness.
I know.
Uh-oh. And because you question God's goodness, you won't run to him for help.
There's so many parts to that. You really do need to dissect it.
All
it's almost like 3 parts.
Okay, let's start with the first part.
Like entitlement.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Do we feel entitled?
Of course.
Yes,
I think we all feel entitled.
Yeah. And I think for some reason, I don't know why this is, but for some reason, we grow up thinking that if we tithe and if we pray and if we share our faith every now and again, God is obligated to answer our prayer like we pray.
Mm-hmm. I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I do good things.
That's
so
right.
Good things should happen to me.
So, God, you behave yourself and do what I say. I mean, it sounds preposterous.
It's a vending machine, God. That's what that is.
Yeah.
You put your coin in and you get
well,
what
and we
you want
say
out.
that, like, we've talked about that on the show before, where we knew someone very healthy, athletic, that has a heart attack.
Yeah.
And we're like, how does that happen to a good person like that did everything right?
Right.
And it's like, well, that's not the way it works.
That is not the way it works. But we do judge the goodness of God whether we get what we want. It reminds me, y'all remember, if you've been in Walmart lately, just think back to that experience.
Oh, yeah.
The screaming young
Just 2
men.
days ago.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
You know, we've all seen the screaming young men in Walmart.
Throwing the
We've
fit.
had one
Throwing
there,
the fit.
yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they want the toy and they're not getting the toy, you know, and it's... That's exactly what this is like. Mm-hmm. Like we're pitching a fit. Like
it's
we
a
are
grown-up version of the child toy tantrum.
That's right.
That's true. That's true. I find it happens to me when I compare myself to other people. Like looking around and I'm like, well, look at what she's got.
Yeah.
Look at her house. Look at her clothes or the situation she's in or, you know, and I start to go down that slippery slope.
I'll let you borrow this shirt, Tricia.
Thank you. It is pretty, Carol. I do like it. Are we getting the shirt on video? Because it is good. And you heard her say that I could borrow it. So, no, but it does happen. It does happen. And it's even worse with stuff like Facebook, of course, because then we see the best version of everyone and we think, well, my version's not as good as her version.
My lunch is not as good as hers.
That's right. That's
right.
And
one of my friends posted something that her child did, like kind of a big superlative, and he was very young, and it was an opportunity that I had for my oldest child, and we said no to it. And like 3 years later, as I'm seeing her post, I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed the opportunity. We made the wrong decision. Oh my gosh, we should have done it. And then I had to backtrack myself and rethink through my whole decision process and say, no, I made the right decision for us. It truly was the right decision. But in that instant, I felt terrible. I felt like a bad mom. I had terrible, terrible guilt that I was ruining my son's future. I mean, all of this went through my head because I saw something on Facebook.
Yeah.
We allow ourselves to kind of look and compare and think about what we've got. You know, my kid said something to me the other day. I said, you need to go take the trash out. This is an ongoing issue in our house. Just take the trash out. That's all. But he got mad and he was like, well, this is not fair. I always have to do this stuff. And I'm like, you're lucky life is not fair, right? And we're lucky life is not fair. If life was fair, every mistake that I made, I would have to put into account. Every wrong thing that I've done, I would have to stand up for. But God took care of it, and it's not fair. And thank goodness it's not fair.
Right.
And I was trying to tell him that, but when I think about myself, I'm just that same way. God, this is not fair. I'm tired.
You know why?
I don't want this.
Because he's just thinking about the trash.
Yeah, I need to take the trash out.
You're thinking about the bigger picture, and I think that's so true of us too. We're thinking of what's right in front of us, and but God, I don't want it because trash is a big deal for me too because I have to do it.
Yeah,
because. And I hate trash day. Trash day is my worst day because it gets full and nobody seems to know how to put another bag in the thing.
Right.
And it's just overflowing on the floor.
Does anyone see this?
I'm like, good grief. So trash is a sore subject for me too. But I think it is a spiritual metaphor for the other things that we have in our lives because we only see what we've got to do right now.
Yes.
And so it's not fair and I want to stomp my foot and pitch a little hissy fit. I am a good hissy fit pitcher. Oh, my word.
Expert hissy fitter?
I'm like a PhD hissy fitter. I can throw one more hissy fit. I'll spare you that. But anyway, so we talk about that entitlement. Yeah. We all have it. All right, let's move on to the next part. Because we feel entitled, it leads us to question God's goodness.
That's a dangerous place to be, right there.
Yeah. But we do it all the time.
We do it all the time.
Question God's goodness. I think about when that song "Good Good Father" came out. I was talking with a gal, and she said I have a hard time singing that song, and I was like, well, why? And so we got to talking about it, and it was solely based on the fact that she was going through a rough time, and I think God being a good father is his character. It doesn't have anything to do with what he does or what we go through.
Right.
It's who he is.
Right. Yes.
And so often we judge that by what we're going through. Well, if God was a good father, he wouldn't let me go through this struggle. Well, you know what? When I took my little girl to the doctor's office and had to hold her down while they gave her shots, all she could feel was the pain. Right. But I knew they were good for her. They were going to protect her. But I couldn't explain that to her in that moment. I think of that analogy every time I'm tempted to think that, well, God's not behaving like I thought he should or giving me what I thought I deserved or those kinds of things.
Yes, I heard an analogy about this that just you're making me think of. They were talking about, the plane wreck that killed JFK Jr. and his wife. Oh, yeah. What happened was he wasn't instrument rated and it got foggy, and so he got disoriented. I don't know if you heard that story, but the plane crashed because he was disoriented. And this preacher that I heard said, we can become disoriented.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know which way is up. We don't know which way is down. And when we do that, we can go into the same kind of spiral that can end up hurting us so badly. And when we use words like, well, I never get this, or why does this always happen to me? These are what she said were spiritually disoriented words. And to be on the lookout for when we say spiritually disoriented words. And that's what that made me think about. When we're questioning God's goodness and we're using these words that are just like, well, God never does this for me, or why can I never get this? Always. Spiritually disoriented words. And when we get in that fog, and it happens to me, when we get in that fog, we've got to try to fix our eyes on Jesus and his goodness and remember his goodness to get out of that disorientation.
I think sometimes that's so hard when you're going through a struggle.
Oh, yes.
Is to, you could still believe and you can still know, but when you're in a deep struggle or you're in that spiral of getting out and truly just saying, okay, God, you've got this. I know you've got a plan. Yep. Your plan is better than my plan. But I know that during those times, that gets really hard to do.
It is.
Well, here's the thing that I want to throw in there because I am bad to follow my emotions. I'm an emotional gal. I have a million emotions, I think. You remember that movie Inside Out with all the emotions? She has like 4 or 5. I have like 10 million. And they all change every day, But I think I tend to lead with emotion a lot of the time. And just like you were talking about getting disoriented in that fog, emotions can do that. Emotions are the place where the enemy goes, hey, I got her now. She's going to act on this or this or this or this.
Yes.
But the truth is the place where I can level out. It's those instruments that I need to look at. And I think that's why it's so important that we prepare.
Yes.
You know, we don't go into battle with a Nerf gun.
Right.
We go into battle with the truth of God's word, and we stop trying to fight with all these, hang in there, Friday's coming posters, and we really fill our mind with truth so that when those times come, it's almost like a reflex that those things come.
Yeah.
Well, and I love, I've used in our devotions last week, I used Ann Graham Lott's current story. She's been posting on Instagram and on her blog about her battle with cancer. And she's so faithful. I mean, we all know that she's faithful. She grew up in a faith family. She's a huge believer. But I find inspiration from people like that. She's going through cancer, and it's a battle. But she has such strong faith, and I feel like her goal through this is to show other people the goodness of God. Even though she's struggling and hurting, she is proclaiming God, the goodness of God, through every single step of her journey. So one of the things I do when I feel like that, or I'm emotional, or something, so I'm in a struggle, is I will lean on other people's faith, if you will, to keep me going.
Well, and I think that's why it's important to be a part of a community like this, is because when you do struggle, you got friends who can come alongside you and remind you of the truth. Now, I'm not talking about browbeat you, with the word, but to say, you know what, hang on to that hope, hang on to that hope, hang on to that. Keep looking at those instruments, keep looking at the truth, and let's get back on course here. And if you isolate when you go through a struggle and you don't do that, you don't have the benefit of having a co-pilot to say, hey, let's get back on course here and let me help you. But I think that is, a lot of people would be tempted to not say, God is so good in this situation, but to say, God is mad at me. And he gave me cancer, And her perspective on it is so refreshing, I think.
Yes. And that's the kind of relationships that don't cause envy and jealousy. Those are the kind of relationships that build us up together. And then we're open with each other about our struggles and our successes, and you don't have to worry that somebody's going to tear you down, and you don't have to tear them down in your mind.
Right. And there's that third part that we read before, when you envy, when you doubt God's goodness, you won't run to him for help. And oh my word, how many times have we seen that play out? Which is just what you were talking about. When you go through a tough time, you won't run to him for help because you don't think he's good, and you don't think he has your best interest at heart, and you don't think he knows what's best. All of that comes from envy. I mean, I would have never traced that back to envy. I don't know about you guys, but when I read that, I was like, man, that's so good. But it's so true.
And it's the root of what has happened. I mean, Satan was envious of God.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's all started in that same way. It's a very dangerous path to go down.
What are some words? I mean, because we don't say the word envy very much. At least I don't hear it.
Jealousy.
Yes, I think
comparison.
Jealousy. Oh, definitely comparison. That's a terrible trap.
Yeah.
And comparison, I struggle with comparison all the time.
Well, it's hard not to.
It's hard.
It
not
is,
to.
especially
That's the way society set up.
Especially when you post your lunch and it looks a lot better than mine. It just makes me hungry.
Yeah. And your cakes that you design.
That's exactly right. I'm like,
well, I bought this lipstick because someone showed it on Instagram and it looked amazing, and everyone was commenting how great it was. I'm like, well, I've got to get that.
You got to get that lipstick.
It
does look good.
Grab mine.
It does look good. But that comparison is a dangerous place to live.
It's terrible. And I think we just have to kind of step back from it and focus on all the good that we have. And I keep a gratitude journal for that reason.
So smart.
I need to remind myself of what is good in my life.
I know a friend who says with her kids every day, she's like, the high point and the low point.
That's great.
And then when they talk about the high point and the low point, then she says, tell me 3 things that you're thankful for today. I love it. And I try to get, I'm terrible at discipline stuff, but I try to get in the habit of asking those questions and those kinds of questions to our kids to help them foster that gratitude, because it's easy. I said the other day, I was playing 10,000 Reasons. I said, I can come up with 20,000 excuses. And I realized something. It takes as much energy to come up with 20,000 excuses as it does to come up with 20,000 reasons that God has been good to me. Takes the same energy.
And what a different way of thinking.
Exactly.
You focus on the excuses versus the reasons. Boy, you're going to have a different day because you
sure
took
is.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those is beneficial. I won't tell you which one. I'll let you try it out for yourself. But the 10,000 excuses, that's part of the spiral downward. But the 10,000 reasons to be grateful and thankful are, they pay dividends that you just can't even measure most of the time.
And you don't get jealousy when you're focusing on those.
So true.
So
envy, it's a dangerous thing. Don't live there. Don't go there. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on envy. Envy is a spiritual disaster, so stay away from it. You can email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. We would love to hear from you. We'd also love for you to share this podcast with somebody that you think might enjoy it. We would love for you to do that. And I tell you what, let's get back together around these microphones next time. We'll save a seat for you right here on the Girl Talk Podcast.